Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.
Hello and welcome to Fight Still Pro. Today I've been asked to do a video specifically on gloves that are under the £50 price mark. Now this is an area that Fight Still Pro's had a bit of a issue with for a long time. We were very reluctant to just stock any old glove because of a price point. So we've only ever looked for gloves that, even though it's a low price, we think it's really A, good value for money, and B, is actually going to do the job of protecting both you and your partners in training. So this has narrowed the field somewhat for us over the years. Now in more recent times there's been an influx of gloves which are kicking around that kind of price, which are actually pretty decent. They're not as good as the professional full leather versions, but if you're wanting something to just give the sport a try, or you're wanting something where you're not using it very often, but you need a set of gloves, then this might be the price bracket for you. So I'm going to go through 4 options here. These are some of the better gloves that have come out over the last few years, and I'm going to go through the ins and outs of them. Okay, so we've got the Core Aero AX5. Now, historically, we picked up Carbon Claw when they very first started. I knew the guy who ran the company. He'd spent a long time in another boxing company, which will remain nameless. Went out, set his own company up, and he did a really good job. He's brought out quite a few budget gloves, which at the time were probably the best ones on the market. We did quite well with this, and we had no problems endorsing his products. So this was a bit of a revelation for us. We hadn't had a glove in that price bracket that worked for a long time, and this was it. So this retails at around £40. There's different retailers putting in slightly different pricing, but I think the RRP is about £40. It actually has an exterior leather construction and an interior PU and mesh construction. Most gloves in the under £50 bracket have a PU element. Most of them are actually fully PU. This one isn't. It's got leather on the outside. So opening this up, we have quite a long wrist strap. A lot of gloves in this market seem to have a slightly elasticated strap. Now, my guess is because PU stretches quicker than leather and isn't as strong, it needs this to cinch up better on the wrist. And I've seen this with quite a lot of the gloves in the cheap end of the market. I would be interested to hear a manufacturer's explanation, but that's my guess. Putting the glove on, this is a 16. I'm 6'3", I'm about 93 kilos right now. Putting it on, the hand compartment's not bad, the fit's not bad. It's a little bit roomy around the whole hand. My hand comes to about there, and there's about 1.5 centimeters, maybe as much as 3/4 of an inch, maybe, of room in the hand. It's going to take a good wrap to fill this out. I've cinched this up about as tight as I can get it. There's a lot of movement on this hand compartment, which, when you're striking, it moves around. That's not the best. Yeah, it cinches up against the wrist. Not bad. It pinches a little bit at the top, but it's not terrible. Yeah. Now, one of the things about gloves with a PU element is that they tend to make your hands sweat profusely. So this mesh strip here is going to come in useful. It will aid with the ventilation on the glove. When they brought in mesh strips originally, they were mainly tie gloves, and it was something designed to help you dry your gloves out on a washing line faster so that they didn't rot from the inside out. It's become a bit of a trend, a bit of a fad. I've been a little bit critical about this at times, but with a PU glove, I think it kind of makes sense. Now, the finish on this glove is immaculate. I've seen gloves at twice the price not finished as well as this, so it looks great on photos. The padding is very spongy. It's It's not going to protect your hand as well as I would like. This is going to be okay for doing some light bag work, some light pad work. I'm not so sure I'd be that keen on somebody sparring on it, especially if they're a big guy. But for a glove that maybe you're going to use for 6 to 8 weeks whilst you decide whether you like the sport or not, I think this is going to do the job quite well. At the £40 mark, probably can't complain too much. So all in all, this is not a bad glove at all for the money. Can you get better? Well, let's find out. We've got the Revgear Pro Leather training glove. This glove, it's the same as the Carbon Claw in the respect that the exterior is leather, the interior is PU. This one's a 12 ounce. Now, I put this glove on. The hand compartment is instantly a lot tighter than the Carbon Claw, although saying that it is a 12, so I'll note that. The fist position is very, very good within the hand compartment, and the thumb sits nicely. This, I personally would feel a lot happier about hitting a pad with. I'm not so sure that it's got enough protection for doing heavier bag work. The finish on this is very, very, very good. Just looking at the wrist in particular here, it's got all the hallmarks of a much more expensive glove. This one retails at $34.99, I believe. Now, the padding, just like the Carbon Claw, is a little spongy for my liking. It's very thin. For a 12-ounce glove, it's okay. Hitting pads is going to be okay. As I say, heavy bag work, I'm not so keen on the idea. The PU palm, I mean, I've had this glove on for 20 seconds and I'm already starting to sweat. So it could do with better ventilation. It does have the inner pad here, which is again a hallmark of slightly more expensive gloves. That's good because when I pull the strap up, it pulls in here on the wrist, pulls in tight, and it doesn't overextend the lower part of the glove, making for a good fit. 35 quid, can't really complain. For a starting glove, something that you're just testing the sport out, just like the Carbon Claw, I don't think we can complain so much. I think for sparring, I've got some question marks about that, but would you be sparring after this kind of period of time? This type of glove, I'm not so sure that it's a glove that would get beyond the beginner realm, so maybe there isn't a sparring element to talk about. Pad work, no problem. Heavier bag work, not so sure. So, not bad, £35, it's well constructed. We'll move on. Okay, next up is another glove from Revgear. This is the Revgear Pinnacle. Now this is the second incarnation of the Revgear Pinnacle. The first ones we've got a little bit of a story about. We got the samples through, and frankly I thought they were appalling. They never made the shelves at Fight Store Pro. And looking back at what I said at the start of this video, we have a criteria at Fight Store Pro of what we're going to sell and what we don't. And the first Pinnacle just didn't hit it. We just didn't think it was fit for purpose. This is much, much, much better. Yeah, it's almost a completely different glove. The materials, this is a full PU glove, so unlike the first two, which both had a leather element, this has no leather element at all. Every part of this is synthetic. The fit, as I put it on, this feels like a much more expensive glove. The fit is great. The inside of the glove is the same material, or at least a similar material to what I've seen on gloves double and triple the price of this glove. So they've really improved the interior of this glove, and it feels great on. As you pull the strap round, it doesn't have the pad on the inside like the other Revgear one does, but it's pulling from this part of the glove. It makes a nice tight wrap on the wrist. There's a pad on the back of the wrist. It doesn't pinch like the Carbon Claw does. Thumb position's great, hand position's great, which is actually a feature of a lot of Revgear gloves. They get the hand compartment really, really good, which makes for a comfortable fit. I don't see that there's anything that you couldn't do with this glove. This is a 16. The padding's very, very firm, unlike the other Revgear and the Carbon Claw. The padding's stiff, firm. You could land shots to somebody's head, or if you misplace a shot at the elbow, it's not going to damage your hands. you know, other than the durability factor, there's a lot of pluses about this glove, which it would stand against gloves which are much more expensive gloves. So at £40, I think this is a bit of a bargain. On the downsides, I mean, the ventilation looks to be practically non-existent. There's not even any holes in the palm. We've got a little strap here, which you'll always see on all gloves, no matter what the price, if they're a Velcro glove. Splitting down here, I can see some profuse sweating going on with this, but if you can kind of put up with it, it seems like a very, very good glove for £40. And I think most coaches would be happy for you to use this, certainly for your first year going into sparring and so on and so forth. So let's have a look at the last option here. We have the Ringside's PU version of their Pro Sparring glove. I may have the name wrong. With Ringside gloves, they have so many names which are so similar, I kind of mix them all up. This one retails at £50. It's full PU, just like the Pinnacle that we just looked at. And it has an awful lot of similarities with the Revgear Pinnacle that I've just looked. In terms of the design and profile, it's pretty identical. I look at these two together, the thumb position, the size, these are both 16s, they're almost completely identical. It's quite interesting. However, the Ringside here has some bells and whistles that I don't think the Revgear has. First of all, I mentioned the ventilation on the Revgear Pinnacle being non-existent. Ringside have put the mesh strip in. Now, like I mentioned earlier, in the past I've been quite critical of this whole mesh strip fad, but on a PU glove it actually makes total sense. These things don't have any natural ventilation through the leather material. A PU doesn't breathe, so having a mesh strip on these things I think 100% works. My criticism that it lowers the durability of the glove isn't really there, because PU doesn't last that long anyway. So we have a good little feature on this Ringside glove. Now, opening it out, again, it looks like pretty much an identical material to what's being used on the Revgear. So, top marks, it looks great. Moving this on, fit straight away, feels very good. But the one criticism I've got of this glove is to do with this wrist strap. I tried this on earlier and I can't for the life of me work out why you would start a wrist strap in the middle of the glove. I talked about this exact same feature on a Fairtex BGV9. All the other Fairtex gloves started here. A lot of the tried and tested method for a Velcro strap is to start the strap right at the bottom of the glove there. This one, obviously the wrist cut here comes round and it curls into the wrist strap. Now, I'm sure somebody on YouTube is going to come with a really clever technical explanation as to why this happens, but frankly, I can't see any practical reason for this whatsoever. I think it's just an aesthetic feature, so it looks nice, especially on photographs. The issue with it is this: when you pull it tight and pull it round, because it's pulling from the middle of the glove, watch, it pulls from the middle, right? It pulls up lovely on the bottom, although there's no padding at the bottom, which you would find on most more expensive gloves to protect the inside, the small bones on the inside of the wrist, right? You would pull this round and it creates a big gap at the top. Why would we do this? I just don't understand. So it means that you've got a lot of movement on the top of the wrist. It just doesn't make sense to me why you do this. Is it a big bugbear? No, probably not. I think you could get a more comfortable fit by just having the wrist strap in the normal position here. Overall, I think the glove's really good. Sparring, it's going to work. Bag work, it's going to work. Pads, it's going to work. It's fit for purpose no matter what you're going to do with it. I think you could use this glove, you know, for quite some time. I think it's a genuine alternative to a leather glove, which might be 80 or 90 pounds. maybe even more. And I think this would last for a reasonable period of time. It won't outlast a leather glove. It won't be as durable. That's one of the key things about PU gloves. They don't last as well as leather. But to get you started, you could do a year's training on this, no problem at all. I think this isn't a bad buy at all. So in summary, I think this is kind of a game of two halves. I've got 4 gloves, 2 of them, one's 35, one's 40, and then one's 40 pounds and one's 50. But I can draw a dividing line in between these 4 gloves and say, we have 2 here, which I don't think you can really use either of these for sparring. I think they're okay for technical drills, bit of pad work. Definitely wouldn't be recommending heavy bag work. This one, the finish is better. It's got some nice elements to it. For my mind, it's just too big, it's too roomy, it's too wide. I'm a big guy and it's still really big on me. So I think it's not bad as a starter glove. For £40, it's not bad, but you can get better for £40. Yeah. For £35, you've got this Revgear. It's got a lot of features that a more expensive glove would have, but just like I've just said with the carbon claw, I don't think you can use the full line of activities that you would use with a more expensive glove. So for £35, if you're doing an aerobic kickboxing or boxing class, probably works. Other than that, I'd look at something else. So the last 2, we have the Revgear Pinnacle and the Ringside PU glove. In summary, they're both really good. They both fit really well. They both feel good on. They've got elements of more expensive gloves. You could use them in a full range of activities at any boxing or martial arts club. So they both get a thumbs up from me. The major question that I have at the £50 level especially is the step up to something much better. And when I say much better, I mean much, much better, is going to be anywhere from £10 to £30. If you go up from £50 to 70, 70 is putting you in the ballpark of a professional leather glove. I would personally be imploring you to go in that direction, but at the end of the day, the choice is yours. At that £50 mark with a Ringside, I think you could do a lot worse, and they're going to last a good year of your first year's training. Yeah, I think they're going to do okay for you. So that's my summary. The choice is still yours. Much of this is opinion. Next time we're going to have a look at a couple of brands that have been asked for constantly. We're going to have a look at the top end again with the Hayabusa top end boxing glove and the Venom top end boxing glove. We're going to probably pull in a couple of others as well. So until then, see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe.